This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. On this most auspicious occasion here, we are celebrating our 750th episode with the Magic Word Podcast, and we're going to Portugal, where we're visiting with someone who the Portuguese press has termed a long time ago as being the David Copperfield of Portugal. He is someone who's been doing a little bit of everything from the standpoint of being on television, as well as hosting his own show and touring the world. And he had something that was... It was pretty amazing when he had the Essential Magic Conference back in 2010 that he made a commitment of doing this for 3 years. And it was amazing. And we'll get into talking about that. And as a result, he actually received a fellowship in 2013 from the Academy of Magical Arts. But prior to that, even in 1999, in recognition of him being the Magician of the Year, the Academy of Magical Arts gave him an award for that then as well. Again, he has done so much. And for those of you who have attended FISM, you no doubt have heard him over the years, who has had his In Conversations with, and he's had such luminaries like Paul Daniels and Max Maven and so many others in the past, that it's been just an amazing career that he's had from one direction or another, that any one of which would have made any one person satisfied and happy for life just to stay in that position. But no, he does everything, including speaking, I think, 8 separate different languages. It's amazing. So I could go on and on. I am just thankful that he's my friend, and perhaps yours as well. Please welcome my guest today, Luis de Matos. Hey there, Luis. How are you?
Hi, Scott. How are you? Very good. Very happy to be here on this amazing 705th edition of the Magic Word Podcast. That's incredible.
Well, thank you. You know, it is something that just you just keep on going. You know, that's the thing. You always have to have something to look forward to. Tomorrow is what is it you're going to be doing? You have to have goals. You have to have something in mind that you just can't rest and look back and say, well, I've done that. Nope. What am I going to do? Not what have I done? And you've done so much, and you've got to have a lot of things I know in mind for the future that you're planning. I mean, I'm so thankful that you've taken a little bit of time here today to chat with us. So I know you have things that you're working on.
Well, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. It's always a pleasure to catch up whenever we bump into each other on a magic convention or a FISM or something. Right. It's always great, and I think that thanks to your continued passion and job and commitment to put out the podcast, I think you have enlightened many of our friends and colleagues by putting them up to speed. I don't know if I have much to say, but I'm sure that on the previous 749 was always very interesting conversations.
They all have been. Every one of them have been fascinating, and this is going to be no different. I do want to go back a little bit. I had mentioned something about the Essential Magic Conference, and that is something that was unprecedented at the time. And who would have known that another 10 years from then that we'd be going into a COVID situation in which that we'd be in lockdown, and people were really going to be embracing that type of technology that you kind of broke the ground for. For those who are not familiar with the EMC, tell a little bit about that.
Well, we need to go back to 2009. And back in 2009, I was nurturing this idea that I have so many friends in magic and so many friends that think a little bit in the same roots that I do regarding the desire of giving back to magic, because magic has given me a fantastic life of constant happiness and the constant overcoming difficulties and solving problems and meeting people, and with an achievement here and there, and that is a great thing. And I started back then, 2009, I started to get a little bit worried that there was a new generation coming up that was not going or will ever go to a magic gathering. Mm-hmm. And we learn so much when we go to magic gatherings. We can see what the pros are talking. We can see amazing performances, lectures, all of that. and take advantage of something that is very characteristic. It's a specific characteristic of our world. I mean, I don't think that is there an event in music where amateurs or newcomers can mingle with the big stars of the world. I don't think that is valid for architecture. I don't think that's valid for music, for design, for dance, for any area. But in magic, only takes that you make the decision of going to a magic convention, and it's very likely that you end up late hours in the evening, sitting at the same table of someone that is a big star in magic, and or a very experienced pro, or a very knowledgeable person. It does not need to be a star. It can be someone that knows everything about a specific subject, or has lots of advice to give, and that can only be taken advantage by the new generations when they go to magic gatherings. Well, back in 2009, I gained conscious of that. And at the same time, I wanted to give back to magic. I realized that we had a studio, and we could host a magic convention here, or we could start doing
basically a virtual magic convention, a cyber convention.
That was before. The original idea was not that. The original idea was finding something that could be actually useful to show that desire and to actually make it happen, to give something to magic. And I gave it a thought, and by then there was a new word which not many people knew what it meant. I didn't know what it meant. I found out, and the word was, believe it or not, streaming. Yes, this was a new word,
yes.
not mainstream, back in 2009. So I had this idea, how about doing it and streaming it live across the world. I shared the idea with my good friend David Britland. I shared the idea with my good friend Marco Tempest, and both of them immediately had ideas to transform my simple, humble idea in something really amazing. And so as three got together, and we start thinking that, well, if the young generation actually goes to YouTube to learn magic, with all the dangers that bring, because for me the biggest problem of YouTube is that you can easily find an 8-year-old kid teaching second deal,
right,
or teaching ambitious card, and that's cute. That's cute. That's just cute. A bit pathetic, but cute.
But cute.
Well, but there's a problem inherent to that. And the problem is that other 8-year-old kids will find that video, and they will believe that that is the correct way for doing it. And they start rehearsing and maybe performing and all of that, never only realizing many years later that they have learned it wrongly. So I said, okay, if the new generation do not go to magic conventions, maybe the pros, the knowledgeable people, can go to them on their own media, which would be the internet. And that was basically the beginning of the idea. And yes, we promised to do it for 3 years. We did it for 3 years. I believe it changed something in the world of magic. It changed the open possibilities. It was quite an ambitious project, so much so that more than a decade after, there was no event that ever came close to the Essential Magic Conference. And many tried, amazing tries. I mean, they get points for that. I mean, it's great. But I believe the secret of that is that at that moment, the generosity of the speakers, the commitment of Marco Tempest, David Britton, myself, and my team was so outstanding that actually what was done was unheard of till then. And over more than a decade after, we still are waiting to see what is the event that will top that one.
Well, I think you had a leg up on that, Luis, because you had a studio, as you'd mentioned, with a professional studio with great lighting, good sound, and the way that it was all set up, and with the streaming service that you had. If we would have tried this some years before, even 5 years before, I don't think we would have had the streaming capability because of the bandwidth that people were not be able to get that into their house. There were and are forums where you can obviously type some messages in and leave messages for others, but we actually have this in real-time streaming. And what was interesting is I think you guys started this probably around midnight or so Portugal time, so this way that the rest of the world, us over in the US, were just waking up into this. And the way you had that set up with kind of a horseshoe shape, and the different people that you had, from Eric Mead to Stan Allen, and not just US people, but I was introduced to a lot of different ideas I'd never heard of before. I didn't know there were magic, not carnivals, what am I trying to say, but events, I guess, or festivals in different cities. And there was a gentleman you had who talked about that, and that just opened my eyes to that kind of a thing. Even though it's not popular in the US, it is in some countries over there, and other kinds of things that people introduced us to internationally that we haven't seen nor heard of before. And the speakers were just unrivaled. And then that you also said, and we're going to be having all this on a DVD, so the participants can then have all of this recorded, and that's part of your registration price. And that packet of 3 DVDs I've got, well, I should say of 3 years, is more than 3 DVDs, is one of my most precious DVDs in my collection. I love them.
Well, the thing is that we try to combine speakers that were well known from speakers that people never saw before. I give you a name. Today is a household name in the world of magic. No one have heard of him before the Essential Magic Conference. Dani da Ortiz.
I'd forgotten that he was in that. Wow.
Yeah.
And he is, pretty much a household magician, household name.
Exactly. No one knew who was, I mean, some people knew, but even in the room, there was, I think that I remember there was 2 people that knew him.
How did you select people? I mean, were they friends of yours, or someone you thought, okay, here's an up-and-comer, here's Danny, or someone did Juan Tamariz say, I need to get this guy?
Yeah, well, it was never from a friend's point of view. It was always from a quality there was a reason. So we either were friends with, or we find out where they live. There were people. I remember Devant. I met when he arrived. We never met before. I never saw his face, and yet he was here. So I think that the spirit that existed among speakers was amazing, and everybody was generous. No one was doing it for the money. And you talk about the studio and the lighting and the cameras. Anyone can rent that. What you cannot rent is passion. Because even today, I some months ago, I took part. I registered for a 1-day event similar to the Essential Magic Conference, only 10 years later. It was 1 day, was the double of the price of any of the Essential Magic Conference. You were not allowed to record, and you didn't get any DVD. And the excuse was, because it's very important speakers. Well, the best speakers in the world were the ones at the Essential Magic Conference.
They were.
Yeah. So, and that did not prevent anyone from immediately 25, 30 minutes after each session, it was immediately able to watch it on demand. And then 2 months later, they get it on DVD, because the idea was not to sell anything. The idea was to inject passion, knowledge, and vision into the community. That's why we use these 3 words: learn, share, and collaborate. Because we thought back then, and we still think today, at least I still think today, that those are 3 things heavily missing on our community: learn, share, and collaborate. There is a tendency for learning not to be an attractive procedure, except knowing how this trick is done. Okay, great. That's why there is the success of downloads is because we cannot stand not to know how that trick is done. So we pay $10. We'll never do it in our lives. That download will never work in any circumstance because it only works on this angle for this camera.
On a two-dimensional plane.
Yeah, the trailer is a big fat lie, much worse than instructions back in the day. But we cannot afford, we can't stand not to know that secret. So that's the only learning part. When I say learning is read a book, listen to an interview, go see shows outside magic. That for me is learning. Then sharing, we need to share more. We should not be psychomaniacs about keeping secrets. For me, that is something that saddens me very much. There are a group of smarty pants in the world of magic that they defend that secrets should be guarded from some people. This should only be shared among some selected group.
Higher echelon of wizards or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's thanks to those smarty pants that magic does not evolve. Also because that's probably the only way they are special. It's because they know something that no one else knows. And because they have no other way of feeling special, there's the big glory. I know this. Someone told this to me, and I will take it to the grave. And this always saddens me very much when I hear this. And unfortunately, I hear this I found people thinking like this in all ages. And that for me, that worries me, because we should share
I agree.
And collaborate. I mean, it's the only way to learn. The way I think that the reason why I think we are missing out is that there are records that tells us that the first magic show might have happened 5,000 years ago. Well, a few years ago, a magician invented cinema. A few years ago, compared to 5,000 years ago.
Correct. In the spans of time.
Now, compare for a moment the progression curve of cinema since a couple of years ago it was created to the evolution curve of magic for the last 5 millenniums.
Wow, I see where you're going.
And then what happens is that the curve of evolution of magic, it's almost a parallel to the x of zeros. It's very low here. It didn't evolve that much, and we are doing the same tricks, stuff like that. Well, the evolution curve of cinema created by a magician called Georges Méliès has been exponential evolution. The reason being that it's open source. Not everyone becomes a director. Not everyone is an actor. Not everybody knows about cinema. But because it's open, more people, some of them very clever, very creative, might encounter the world of cinema. And therefore, the world of cinema will end up gaining the contributions of those clever, creative, visionary people. Now, because as magicians, we hide behind the secret, we don't welcome people into our world. We are very secretive. And that takes us to the most pathetic reality. And the pathetic reality is that we get applause not because we are talented. We get applause because we have a piece of information that the audience does not have. Well, that's a bit sad, because there are things in my life that I know, and they are secrets for you, Scott. And I will not tell you the secrets. Some of them are very trivial. Some of them are very pathetic, like in magic. But the fact that I know that secret and you don't, that does not make you go into instantaneous applause. Because the fact that I have a piece of information should not translate into applause. Now, what I do with a little piece of information, that can be something that deserves applause. The same thing goes with the piano. Now, if I never saw a piano in my life, and I see a virtuoso playing the piano, I will not be amazed by the technique of the performer. I will say, wow, it's a wooden box, and there are sounds coming out of the wooden box. I wonder how that wooden box works. I don't care about the guy. I mean, it's the box. Now, because I know how a piano works, there are keys and hammers and strings and a special shape. I know how it works. I know the secret of a piano. Every time I see an amazing performer using that equipment and creating an amazing music, playing an amazing music, my admiration, my applause goes to the performer. And in general,
not to the instrument.
Exactly. And the only reason why magic attracts mediocrity, it's because magic is the only art where you can lie about your talent, meaning you might have zero talent, maybe negative talent, and still you are able to be known on your street as the magician. Maybe you are even able to charge every time you do a show. Maybe you are even invited to a dinner and talk about magic. And the only thing you have is the latest 10-year trick and a thumb tip, which you don't even know which finger to use, what's the finger you should use.
Right.
And you are very concerned that the color does not match.
Right.
but still, you get applause. And the reason why you get applause, it's because the odds are against us. Look, if I am that magician, and if I do a trick well, the spectator will tell, oh my God, Luis did an amazing trick. And they will help my fame in that community. Might be the school, the street, the building, whatever. Now, if I do the same trick and I flash, I will also get good reviews and the incredible publicity for the simple reason, because the spectator will describe it as such. Oh, Luis did an amazing trick. Of course, I pay lots of attention and I'm very clever. I know how he did it, but it was amazing. And they also build up my fame, because the spectator will always, everyone will always tell a story where they look good. So the spectator will tell the story where he looks good, explaining that, yeah, he didn't flash. I, as a spectator, I am very clever. And
I observed it.
I could figure it out, but it's amazing. Also because the more amazing I describe that trick, the more amazing I'm going to look like, because I figured it out. So we are playing with a rigged game.
That's true. But you're not necessarily advocating exposing something, so this way people can then talk about it.
Well, I think exposing. It's exposing. It's.
I mean, you intentionally. In other words, you wouldn't be intentionally flashing to encourage someone to be talking about it.
No. But I will encourage people to share their secrets. I will encourage not to expose magic, but I will encourage to, in the right frame, in the right framework, share the secrets. Because we don't share secrets, I am sure that somewhere in the world right now, someone just invented the double lift. I am sure. Since we start talking, someone invented the double lift. Why? Because there is not enough information that is accessible for other people to come and learn about this and love it and take care of it and take it to the next step. I can give you an example how I like to share. I think it's important to share secrets. If any spectator that comes to me and asks me to explain him how I did a certain trick, depending how he asked and what is the intention I see in that question, I will strongly consider to explain. Because if I notice that that question comes from a point of view that can somehow make him respect magic in a bigger way in the future, I will find a way of not losing that opportunity. I will vanish for 3 seconds. I'm not going. I'm just getting hold of something that is right there. Okay.
All right.
So I'm here. Yes.
All
okay.
right.
So this is my latest book. It's called Livro dos Segredos, Book of Secrets, forward by David Copperfield. So I think
written in Spanish, or is that available in English too?
Only Portuguese.
Okay, Portuguese. Sorry.
So I think this explains how I feel about sharing secrets. So when I go to a bookshop and I see next to me a guy taking a magic book and going, oh, I see, interesting, close the book, puts it back on the shelf, I get angry. Because this guy got access to secrets without respecting them. Because he didn't buy the book, he just realized it's a thread and it's a magnet. That's it.
Right. Well, isn't that similar to what you could do with YouTube? I mean, you can kind of trip across something because as you're going through some YouTube videos, sometimes you go down a hole, and before long, you've learned 3 or 4 things that you really didn't plan on learning.
Yeah. So my challenge was, how can I make this guy to see the book, grab the book, consider buying it, but he will, till he buys it, he will not get exposed. He will not have access to the tricks, to the secrets. But I don't like books that are wrapped in cellophane, because for me that is a lack of respect for the buyer, forcing me to judge the book by the cover.
True.
So I found a way. So this book, when they open it, they can read the effects. So this is there are 50 tricks here, from any card to any number, from Professor's Nightmare, card in orange, all amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's being sold to the lay audience. Okay. So not the old shitty tricks that every magician puts on a book that is for the lay audience. Okay. In this book, there are amazing routines. Some of them, I still do them on my professional repertoire. It's all explained here. You can find it anywhere in Portugal. So
the first half of this are the effects, and the last half are the explanations?
No, there's just the effects.
So there are no secrets explained. They are just...
They are, but only when you buy the book, you access them.
Okay. Is there a link, I guess, a QR code, or...
No. That would be bad, because that is just a fashion of the moment. And how about in 20 years?
I've thought about that frequently. I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, that's just, nah. This book can be sold in 50 years from now, and still on the even pages, you have interesting facts about the history of magic.
It's not like a flip book, is it?
No.
Okay, no. I thought maybe like short, like a Sven pad or something.
No. At the end, there is a DVD. I performed the 50 routines here, but I don't explain them.
Okay.
So if you steal the DVD, you just see me performing.
You see your show. Yeah.
There you go. Now, but the fact they see me performing, it's very important, because sometimes we read things on books and we say, there's no way this will, no one will believe that this will actually fool anyone. Now, for the reader to see me performing those effects in front of a live audience gives them the reassurance that the illusion works, the technique works, and therefore they should invest time to rehearse and perfect it.
Sure, of course.
But once you buy the book, you are free to discover the tricks, because each of these 50 pages, it's not a normal page. It's a double uncut page.
Oh, it's uncut. Yeah, now I see. Yes.
And the explanation and the pictures are all there.
So if you really want to know, you have to actually cut the book.
Exactly. And of course, it comes with a marker. So the marker, let's go for any card at any number. Okay.
Simple trick.
Simple trick. Anyway, I'm not finding it. Oh yeah, I can. Okay?
I can, sure.
I can. And there's the description. And if they want to learn this trick, what they need to know is this is the page, but now
it's folded.
It was made like this, the book, very hard to make, but it was. And on the back of this marker, there's what seems to be an X-Acto knife. So when you come here,
you just slide that between the two pages.
Now this is the page, you see, and now you go, listen to the sound. And now you can learn the trick.
It cuts it open perfectly. So interesting. So if you want to keep the secret, you can, but if you want to know the secret.
Exactly. And it's very unlikely that you will not get noticed if you go to a bookshop and you start ripping pages apart to find the secrets. So the idea is people should have access to secrets as long as they respect them, and as long as that they understand that the secret is just the beginning. And if that is the case, I believe that there should be more learn and share and collaborate.
That's kind of like the underlying principle of my podcast is all about learning. I want people to know more about this and to collaborate by talking with all the guests on here. So I think it's very important. You can tell I'm with you 100%. From what you were talking about, a lot of those things obviously have to do with smaller tricks. I mean, close-up types of things as opposed to larger illusions. So would you carry this to a larger arena, if you will, from the standpoint of those who are wanting to I would use the word rip off someone else's illusion. Let's say someone wants to build an origami, but they're not paying the rights to the person to Jim Steinmeier or anybody. So if someone comes to you and after a show and they say, I want to learn the secret about something big that you did, would you explain that trick? And what do you think about other people building someone else's illusion?
Well, first, I would not explain that trick. It's not to me to explain it.
It's not yours, yeah.
It's not mine. That is the first thing. The second thing, I will strongly be against any sort of stealing, ripping off people in general, and especially in general. But of course, in this case, someone that in your example, someone I admire so deeply as Jim Steinmeier. And I'm so thankful and pleased, and I think is the entire magic history should forever be thankful for his creations. So that's not the case, but that I could answer that question like when you want to be a doctor, you don't necessarily go to on the first class. You go to do your first surgery with an open heart. If you want to be a doctor, you start studying health. The question is that if people, on this metaphor, if people wanting to study health, they end up finding books that usually are PR stunts made for by famous people in their own countries, that they decide to put a magic book out, and probably they will explain this trick, yes, and they will explain the paper clips and the bill and the rising card. That's what they will explain. And that's why those tricks have been explained. No one needs to explain them anymore. There are enough books around the world for lay audience that explain those tricks. So it's important to give them a little bit of background in magic. And that's why the effects, it's just half of the book, because, for example, there are things, I collected interesting pieces of history or anecdotes that are interesting for the lay audience. For example, of course, I talk about Georges Méliès being the father of cinema.
Right.
Because also that's what writes on his grave, which I have visited in the cemetery Père Lachaise in Paris. It says the father of le spectacle cinématographe, of cinema as a show. I mean, forget the Lumiere brothers and the fact that they put the camera and you see people moving outside the factory or a train going to. No. Right. Georges Méliès told stories and built sets and directed cameras and invented special effects. And but for example, many magicians do not know that that's not the only connection that the cinema, no, it's not the only thing that cinema owes to magic. The clapperboard, the simple clapperboard, was invented by a magician.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's news to me. Really?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mr. Clacker.
so the clapperboard was invented by a magician. There were two things before the clapperboard. One was invented by an Australian, not magician. They used two sticks, two pieces of wood, and they filmed themselves going like this, and with the noise. This was to synchronize the audio.
Right, and makes sense.
And there was another thing invented by an American, which was holding a paper and telling what is the take and the name of what they were filming.
Oh, the cue cards. Yeah.
And then came the magician. And the magician put the two things together, and in that day, he invented the clapperboard. And there's a picture of it here. And so the Australian that created, that used the two sticks, it was F.W. Thring, and was just two sticks. And then the magician Leon, born in 1903, died in 1998. He was one of the first sound engineers of the cinematographic industry, and he invented the clapperboard as we know it today. Well, this is just a piece of trivia, but in a way, frames magicians as problem solvers, frames magicians as people that actually advanced the history of the world in many ways. I mean, Charles Babbage is the inventor of the personal computer.
Right.
Yeah, well, he invented after a magic show, inspired on a magic show. So let me get you the picture because this will make you smile. So what I find interesting on these stories is that facts.
They're not all necessarily related to magic, but they have to do with how our society is moving forward and how magicians are imperatively and intricately involved.
Exactly. So I'm trying to find. I will not. I could go to the index because we even put an index on this book. I'm not pitching the book because no one can buy it, so that's fine. And it's completely useless for anyone watching this show because it's in Portuguese. Okay, so this is not a book pitch; it's just to tell. It's a way of it's a way of expressing how I feel about opening the doors of magic to the world. So
Is
here is
okay.
the illusion that inspired computer.
Oh, the Turk
Was the chess player. So Charles Babbage, in October of 1769, he was, so wait, no, let me find here, Charles Babbage, okay. So Charles Babbage, the inventor of the mechanical computer, was another one of the defeated by the Turk, okay. So and this was it was in 1821. In 1821, after he was defeated by the Turk for 2 times, that he was able to build the first mechanical computer. So again, magic is triggering development, is triggering evolution, is triggering solving problems. So let's stop being that secretive about this stuff. Let's open up to the world so the world can respect us a little bit more. When they go to see a fantastic show, the audience does not know if they should consider the magician incredibly talented or if was just a team member pressing a button.
Mm-hmm.
Why should they know? How can they know without us telling? I believe that I think it's important to keep the mystery. But I have an example, and I will not give too much away because I don't want to be accused that I'm giving secrets away.
Okay.
Although I'm talking about something I came up with, so I'm fine.
It's yours, right?
Okay, so I came up with this, what is considered by some to be a new way of performing the floating ball, a new rig, a new method. And this, what I'm going to say is 100% truth with witnesses. So magicians, when they use threads and they perform on TV, very often they need to take a decision. Do we do the lighting in order for the system to be invisible, absolutely invisible to the audience in the studio, or do they worry about making it beautifully lit and yet deceiving for the audience at home? Well, in case of that, someone is thinking twice. Let me put it this way. Do you want the illusion to work for 200 people or for 20 million people? Mm-hmm. Well, I will assume that whoever is watching the podcast will agree with me that it's more important that we make it look great for
larger
20 million people. Now, still, I don't want to dismiss the audience in the studio. So I do a preparation, and the preparation is, I did it in 3 TV shows, one of them my TV show. The 3 TV shows were live broadcasted, the 3 primetime TV. So I know that we are going to live in half an hour. Mm-hmm. The audience is sitting in the studio. I just discreetly, I have my mic on, I'm not talking. I discreetly enter the stage, and I have a beautiful, quite big, fluffy marionette.
Okay.
In a corner of a stage, I'm playing to myself, ignoring the audience. I'm playing to myself with the marionette, and I'm quite good with it. Okay. So he looks at me and there's expression, and I play. We interact. Then we walk. And then eventually, after 5 or 10 minutes, we are center stage. Again, I'm ignoring the audience, and the audience looks at me as if it's well, the guy is preparing something for later, or is just entertaining us, but is not even performing it for us. He's just playing himself there.
Right.
There's a moment where I realize that the entire audience is looking at me and the marionette, because, as I said, I'm not bad with it.
and they have nothing else to look at. They are just waiting for the show to start.
Sure.
And so there's a grown-up man playing with a fluffy toy that seems to have life. Okay?
Right.
So I am there with the marionette and the strings and the stick and all of that. There is one moment where I drop the wood. The marionette falls on the floor, and I strongly, ostensively step on it and smash the head with my foot. In that moment, the 3 times happened like this. The audience goes,
right. They gasp.
Exactly. David Gritland was in one of these occasions, and he describes it. It was the same reaction as if you just came out and announced that the President of the Republic died of a car accident that moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
just a visceral reaction.
Exactly. The moment they say that, they go, and I know I have my mic on.
Mm-hmm.
I interject that reaction and I say, exactly. Look, later, I will be doing something very similar to what you just saw. You realize that from the beginning, I was having this piece of fluffy cloth hanging from these strings, and I was manipulating it with a piece of wood, with a triangle, with a cross of wood.
Right.
Yet, that did not prevent you of establishing a relationship with the puppet, and almost to a point that the moment that I smash its head, you had feelings for it.
Mm-hmm.
You forgot about the strings. You forgot about the piece of wood. You forgot about the fact that the puppet only had life because I was manipulating it. And you could isolate the puppet from me. Well, let me tell you, later in the show, I am going to do something very similar. You might see strings everywhere. You might see, it's not a puppet, it's a different object.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be me and only me controlling it. Every move of that ball is going to be the result of my dexterity, of my control. The same way that here with the puppet was me making it alive throughout these mechanics,
right,
and the stick. So what I suggest is that when you see, and you will see lots of strings everywhere and me controlling them, well, try to forget about that and focus on the flying object and on the relation of that object with me. The 3 times I've done this live TV, standing ovation from the audience.
Wow.
They saw the entire system from beginning to end.
Wow.
So it is possible. I'm not saying that this is valid for everything. What I'm saying is that there are cases, and we should all think about those, where the fact that the audience knows a little bit of what's happening, it might increase the admiration and might, in a way, just justify a more honest applause and not an applause on cue.
So a little bit of knowledge is good in giving them that up front, certainly. Yeah. Plus, I'm sure they were acknowledging your skill in handling all of that. I mean, even after you had explained that, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, he's able to handle all that. So it's almost a dual reality.
But remember that if I would have not done this introduction, I was leaving space for them to be the smarty pants.
Right. Oh, I see. I see.
Oh, look. Can you see there? Easy threads.
So you take that punch out of there to begin with by doing that to begin with. So it's like, hey, you know what's happening. Yeah. Huh. I love that. Wow, that's very interesting. Now I love the thinking on that, and also about how they're talking about magic being 5,000 years old, and how that really has not progressed because we haven't been learning and sharing and collaborating. We've been holding these secrets. I was thinking also something that Penn and Teller had talked about time and time again about where they say, look at the pretty box, and that's really not what people should be looking at. And there should be an emotional involvement that people have with what you're doing, not the trick, but the presentation, I guess. And too often we as magicians are wrapped up in the methodology, and it's like the cleverness of that. And I want to keep that a secret from the public. Whereas
you mentioned the amazing Penn and Teller, and look, let's go to the floating ball that
Teller does. Beautiful. My question is,
Penn bluntly says at the beginning,
yep,
the next piece of magic is done with a thread, a ball and a piece of thread. That's it. So that does not prevent any lay audience or any knowledgeable magician in the world to be absolutely amazed with what Teller does in that moment, in that routine. I think secrets are overrated, especially because in society in general, the tendency is that there are no secrets. If you want to learn about something, you learn about something. So the fact that there is no secrets, we are the old-fashioned guys. We did not evolve in a way that would allow people to still give us love, still give us admiration, the moment that we do not depend on a piece of information they have no idea, no access. I think it's very sad when the only reason you get applause for is because you know a piece of information that they don't.
I recall Valentino, as the mass magician, explanation about why he was exposing things, saying these are antiquated methodologies and I want to move magic forward. If I expose these, magicians won't use those methods. They will be forced to create something new. Does that sound like a valid argument?
No.
Okay.
Because I don't take valid arguments from thieves. And he's just a crook and a thief. He used the secrets that he didn't have the right to use.
Correct.
To make a terrible show, to cheapen the art, and it doesn't even have the knowledge or the authority, and he was exposed in a very cheap, frivolous, unrespectful way. I mean, the way I think that secret should be available is not to mainstream on a TV show by someone that is hiding the face and is explaining tricks that they did not is not entitled to. So nothing will ever defend, nothing will ever make me think good about the masked magician.
Right.
I at all. What I talk about is something different. What I talk about is look at the magazine that the series of magazine, I think only 5, which are now coming in a book that Richard Wiseman did called Hocus Pocus. He was talking about secrets and methodology in a very subtle way, but somehow the lay audience would read that and they would respect more magic and the history of magic. So sometimes it might not be just saying, oh, look, it's done with a mirror. This will not make people respect us more, but maybe the research, the thinking behind, the evolution, the detail. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things that if we allow the audience to have access, I believe they will admire us more. I think they will distinguish the guy that does the tenure trick, even saying that he invented it, because that's another thing. It's very easy in the magic world for anyone to buy the latest thing on the dealer's room.
True.
The next day, is sharing it with the friends,
Right.
saying, "Here is something I invented."
Hmm.
It's and no one dares to show the piano and say, "Here is something I invented, the piano." Everybody laughs at the guy if he says that.
Sure.
Here is my laptop that I invented. No, but if in many things that you could buy today on a dealer's room, or read in a book, because there is no knowledge about, or no place to search about it, many of us can say, "Yeah, I invented this." And actually, some of us say that, and some of us even believe that, which is even more sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So say it so often that we believe it then ourselves. Kind of along that line, do you encourage or discourage people from videoing your show during the show or taking photos or anything? I mean, different magicians have different opinions on that. And I'm wondering if because some don't want their video being put out on YouTube where people can dissect it and everything then later, and exposing a secret. So what are your thoughts on that?
I am totally against filming during a live show.
Mhm.
And it's not because people figuring out tricks, or no, it's not because of that. It's because that moment, that piece was created to be enjoyed inside the theater.
Mhm.
Well, I have done the same piece on a live show and on TV. And the way you present those pieces are fundamentally different. So when I'm doing on a live show, it's everything is done for the enjoyment and the experience to be 100% for the human eye, wherever you are seated. Is not the same thing to record it and then take it out of context.
Right.
So it for me is like comparing the deluxe version with hardcover and box and all of that of a book. Compare that and say, "Oh yeah, but if I Xerox it, if I take photocopies, it's the same thing." Well, the moment you video it, that the metaphor, the compare, that is the same thing as a Xerox of a deluxe version of a book.
I see.
So that's why I am completely against, and I will go to extreme lengths to avoid filming during a live show.
I think also a lot of magicians will say, well, some magicians I've spoken to say they don't want people to record because it takes away from the focus of the moment. In other words, you're watching the show through the lens of your camera or your phone or whatever, and also taking away some of the enjoyment of people seated around you because of the brightness of the screen or whatever. And you kind of miss something because you're looking to make sure that you got the picture right or something, and missing what's happening. So you're missing the moments that are important in the overall presentation of that. So that's another reason I think they don't want people to be taking something. On the other hand, I've heard some people say you can take all the pictures and video you want for the first 10 minutes, and then after that, put it away because we want you to enjoy the show. But if you want to tweet about this and post on Instagram, that's fine. I encourage you because that helps my social media. But just do it for the first part and then put it away.
I mean, I don't judge anyone.
Nor do I. I'm just pointing out some people have different opinions. I just was asking yours.
I don't do that. I don't do that because, in a way, what I feel is that, oh yeah, so you want me, you want to forbid me to film it, but you want me to film it as long as I share it and only the part you want. No.
I see your point.
Yeah.
Hadn't looked at it that way. Yeah.
They already paid. They paid the ticket to be there. They don't need to pay with work.
Yeah.
So if you
to do the work for you.
Yeah. If they want to share, there's many ways of if they want to share the love for the show, there are many ways they can share the love for the show. And in my case, filming the show, it's not one of them.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up over here, I thank you very much for showing your love for this show and being on this broadcast there with me then as well, and for being my friend for so many years. I do look forward to seeing you and hearing you when you have your conversations at Vism and other places. So as we start to close, two quick things. Is there some place where people can see you? Again, I know you kind of tour a lot through Europe. Do you have some tours coming up where people might be able to see you perform? And how can they follow you then, speaking of social media?
Okay, yeah, well, they can find me on Instagram basically, because I was unfortunate with Facebook a year and 2 months, a year December last year, December 2021, December 2021, Facebook, which is a terrible company, by the way, because you cannot talk to anyone.
True.
And no one takes care of you. Even if I had 262,000 and something followers.
Wow.
I have been on Facebook since the beginning. I was an advertiser on Facebook because we use it as a tool to promote our shows.
Sure.
And from one day to the other, I was banned. I still don't know why. I haven't done anything wrong, and so all my pages, including my main page of those 260,000 plus, 260,000 plus, I lost contact. So best way is Facebook, website. I mean, I'm around. Yeah, if you hear about the show I'm involved with, come see it. I hope you like it. And for those of you that throughout this conversation between us two, they gave us the pleasure of being listening to us and the outrageous thoughts that I decided to share here.
I'm so flattered. Thank you.
I know that some of them, maybe most part of them, might have been very shocked and maybe cringed a little bit and totally disagree of my opinion. That's fine. Whenever you are invited by Scott, you tell your opinion.
Exactly
this
right.
was my time, okay?
Right.
And also, my opinion, I don't share it hoping that first, that is absolutely 100% correct. It happens to be what I think today, in February of 2023. Maybe in 2 months from now, I think differently. I think the cleverest man is the one that changed opinion more times during the life, because the one that didn't change opinion means he learned nothing. And that this is what I think at this moment. I shared with open heart. I would love to listen the contraire, and I always want to learn, because I believe it's very good to learn, to share, and to collaborate.
Well, I think you kind of answered my next and final question. That was about, because it's called the Magic Word Podcast, I always like to ask my guests, what is your phrase? What is it that is your mantra? What do you live by? What's most important in your life? And perhaps that
well, that could do. But I can say something else, which actually I honestly believe. I always do each show as it is the last show I'm going to do in my life. First of all, because one day it will be. And the second thing is because I honestly believe that my biggest competition, it's my last show. So if I do this one as my last one, the one I'm doing tomorrow, after tomorrow, if I do it as the last one, is my last chance of being a little bit better than the one I did previously. And that is something that makes me happy and motivates me. And I strongly believe that we are incredibly privileged in having the life that we have.
We do. We are.
And the other thing is that, as a friend of mine says, even when we fail, come on. It's not brain surgery. No one's going to die.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Do every show as if it's your last. That's right. And love your audience. That's great. Well, thank you, man. I love you. This has been fantastic. I appreciate you sharing all of your thoughts here then as well. And this has been a wonderful conversation.
So if this was the episode 750,
yes,
I think we could do it again on episode 1500.
Why not?
Deal.
I think kind of revisit and see where we are and how our lives have changed and how your opinions may have changed or remained the same and gotten stronger. The older you get, like me, it's like, oh, you're an old man and you're, fixed in your way, your opinions.
Hey, and that would be good because that means that we would still be here.
That's by the bottom line. And I hope we are. Thank you very much, Luis. This has been great. So for the Magic Word Podcast and from Portugal, that was my friend Luis de Matos. This is Scotty out.